Welcome back. Let's turn our attention to education, this time in Ogun State, where the governor says that he is determined to revamp the fortunes of the education sector in the face of the current challenges for sustainable development and effective service delivery. Governor Dakpo Abiodun highlights some of his plans for the sector at a forum with teachers and school heads in the state. He explains that the forum was necessary in view of the worrisome development in the education sector in recent times.
It's the first education forum since the inception of the current administration in Ogun State. Stakeholders in the sector gather at the Cultural Center in Abeokuta, the state capital, to discuss and offer solutions to the deplorable state of the sector, from early child education to primary, secondary, tertiary, as well as technical and vocational training schools.
But I can assure you all that
these challenges range from lack of funding to infrastructure, curriculum overhaul, training of teachers, and several other issues.
For a number of years, our schools have been without running costs. No running costs for about 7 years now, and the bills keep on mounting. Kindly consider and assist us.
Governor Dakpo Abiodun, who is not pleased that the state is now 19th in the National Educational Performance Ranking chart, highlights some of his plans for improvement.
In efforts to first motivate our teachers, I called the head of service and I said, when last were our teachers promoted? And that was what gave rise to promotion of about 10,000 teaching and non-teaching staff. We've also began the process of laying fiber across the state. And what is fiber? This is to allow us to provide Wi-Fi to places like hospitals, markets, our primary schools, our secondary schools, our tertiary education centers.
To further broaden their administrative skills, school principals and administrators were given a leadership and management talk with a call for purposeful leadership.
Leadership is second only to classroom instruction among school-related factors that affect student learning in schools. Teacher quality stands above everything else, but principal leadership came next. And that is indisputable, because as educators, our first bottom line is what? Performance.
The forum is a platform for teachers and principals to air their views on ways to improve the sector and bring about outstanding performances, and was rounded off with the recognition of students who've made the state proud in various competitions, both in Nigeria and outside of the country.
Staying with education, special schools are created for children with peculiar needs so they can get the kind of education that they deserve. However, some of these schools are sometimes neglected and not given the right kind of attention. This next report takes a look at the state of the Kwara School of Special Needs and what the government is doing to correct the situation there.
This environment gives the impression of a good learning space. That impression changes with a closer look. The Kwara State School for Special Needs in Ilorin was established in 1974 by a visually impaired man before it was taken over by the government. 45 years later, the school faces numerous challenges. The principal highlights some of them.
Challenges of hostel accommodation for the intellectually challenged. We lack teachers. We need specialists in the area of special education. Those people who will deliver. Because what you don't have, you don't give it out. According to policy on education for people living with disability, the children must not be more than 8 per class. But we are after about 40. That is a challenge.
Most of the structures are dilapidated. The hostels are in a terrible state with no functioning restroom to serve them. The clinic is also not left out.
These special students are not easy to manage. If we say we cannot cope with them, where do you want them to go? And these people, the moment they are not educated, the people, the general society, use them the way they want. So we need to put on more effort, to sacrifice our own effort, to see them as our own children.
I'm a casual staff and I've been working here since 2011. So we are pleading that government should help us to retain those of us that are PTA. We are earning 5,000. Even most of us have been working monthly. Yes. Some of us have been working since 18 years ago. Started with 1,800.
Some of the students lament the unhealthy environment they live and study in.
The environment is poor. The hostel isn't good at all. The restrooms are bad. The kitchens are small and are not okay.
The Kwara State Governor, Abdulrazak Abdulrahman, is here to see the present state of the school. The governor and his team meet with the school management to discuss the process of including the school in the next budget.
The emphasis now, it's really not on the new project, but on revamping what is there, on bringing back things to standards. So I join here to begin the process and to encourage you that we're all in this together. Bringing you here is not punitive, it's just to understand ourselves.
These children with special needs require attention in order for them to compete with their peers. Hopefully, the Kwara State government intervention will help address the specific needs of the school and put it at par with other learning institutions.
Following President Muhammadu Buhari's assent to the bill establishing the Federal Polytechnic, Kaltungo, in Gombe State, the Federal Government Committee for the Takeoff of the institution has visited the proposed site to ascertain the level of infrastructure available there. The Federal Government had explained that the decision to establish the institution is part of the desire to improve and expand admission opportunities for children in tertiary institutions in the country.
In College, Kaltungo, established over a century ago, used to be the only higher learning institution in the area until the approval for the establishment of a federal polytechnic. It's a joyous moment for the host community and the entire state as the federal government officials visit the area to inspect the permanent and temporary sites ahead of the takeoff. This further attests to the reality of the development.
The feelers we are getting, honestly, is that really you have met all the requirements for takeoff and permanent site. The Polytechnic shall have powers and perform such functions conferred on it by the Act as a corporate body with perpetual succession and commercial. The main function of the Polytechnic shall be to provide full-time and part-time courses of instructions and training, as well as produce middle and high-level manpower in technology, applied sciences, commerce, and management.
While Kaltungo Model School will serve as a temporary site, the state government has allocated over 100 hectares of land for the permanent site.
Already the site for both the takeoff and the permanent site have been acquired. So what remains for the Polytechnic is for recruitment of the key personnel for them to come and start academic activity, which I believe will be done almost immediately. So we thank God. We appreciate all that you did, and inshallah, want to send a message, not only to the Honorable Minister, but to Mr. President and Nigerians at large, that Gombe is ready. Kaltungo is ready.
A former lawmaker who sponsored the bill is happy to see his effort come to reality.
God has seen the yearnings of the people here who have had a history of Western education so early, when others did not know the benefits. We embraced it, but along the line we lost the advantage that we used to have. But God looked upon our yearning and He answered our prayers and granted this Polytechnic.
The people of Kaltungo community believe that the Federal Polytechnic will bring desired development to the area as well as enhance the economy of the state.
The Group Managing Director of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, Mr. Melekari, says that there's a renewed work plan to rehabilitate all the nation's refineries and get them working before the end of President Muhammadu Buhari's tenure. The GMD, NNPC, also says that Ilorin Depot has been reopened to enable the decongestion of oil tankers in Apapa, Lagos. Meanwhile, the Minister of State for Petroleum, Timipre Silva, says that Nigeria is not reducing its share in oil joint venture companies to 40%. Mr. Silva made the remarks at the close of a two-day strategic ministerial retreat for chief executives in Lagos.
We have promised Mr. President that we are going to deliver all the 3 refineries before the end of his tenure, and we are very clear on our schedules, and particularly with Port Harcourt. I just came back from Port Harcourt, and what we did is to have the full scoping of the work that needs to be done so that we can have a clear EPC contract before the end of this year and then commence full-scale rehabilitation by January. What that means that once we start that, we know we can deliver it by the end of 2022. That will be delivered. And what that will do will bring over 10 million liters of gasoline only from Port Harcourt Refinery alone. And that, of course, that's a significant proportion of the nation's demand. Our cost of production is high, yes. In terms of averages, global averages, we're somewhere in the middle. And our plan is to pull it down. And the way to pull it down is very simple: clear planning, upfront planning, very excellent procurement processes so that time is cut, and of course getting the right technologies and ultimately having all stakeholders aligned. And if you do a combination of this at the planning stage and you deliver on it, I'm very sure the cost will come down.
We initiated this early session with key leaders of the ministry and heads of agencies to cascade the presidential agenda, receive status reports from the ministry and its agencies, to develop strategic priorities, a roadmap, and a delivery framework for the next 4 years and beyond. Therefore, the retreat concluded with the production of high-level strategic priorities that focus on increase in oil and gas reserves and production, energy security through curtailment of smuggling and revamping the refineries, increase in federation revenue through cost control and increased efficiencies, facilitate investment in capital projects, thereby enhancing job creation opportunities and poverty eradication.
You're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, reaching you live from Lagos. Let's shift gears now, shall we, to business news with Bisi Adebayo.
Many thanks, Gimba. Welcome to Business News. The President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, says the executive has forwarded the medium-term expenditure framework to the Senate, which will be considered when plenary resumes on September the 24th. Senator Lawan told journalists in Abuja that the lawmakers will work on the MTEP within the first legislative week and will work hard to ensure that the 2020 budget is passed before the Christmas holiday.
I have been informed that the executive has sent the request for the MTEF to the National Assembly, to the Senate, and I'm sure that will be the first thing that we will do by the grace of God. We hope to take the MTEF within the first legislative we'll be having. And of course, our committee on finance, particularly, would be saddled with its first major responsibility of ensuring that it works expeditiously on the MTEF FSP request of the executive arm of government, and therefore the budget will come after that.
The partial closure of Nigeria's border has led to a gradual reduction in the truck out of petrol from the country. According to data from the Petroleum Products Pricing Regulatory Agency, the average daily volume trucked out has reduced from 61 million litres to 50.22 million litres between August the 5th and September the 8th. The PPPRA attributes the high truck out volume recorded before the exercise to the seepage of petroleum products across the border, coupled with the widening fuel price arbitrage with neighboring West African countries. The agency describes the downward trend in the consumption pattern as a welcome development and assures stakeholders that efforts are being made not only to curb the smuggling of products, but to ensure that petroleum products are available in the country. The World Bank Country Director, Rashid Ben-Massoud, has advised Nigeria to scale up its social investment programs to address the large number of people living in extreme poverty. According to him, Nigeria is spending less than 3% of its gross domestic product on social investment is not enough to fight against poverty, build human capital, and spur economic growth. Mr. Ben-Massoud says the bank is in full support of the country's social investments and that's why it helped to establish a social registry containing legitimate names of poor households in the parts of the country. However, the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, says that Nigeria spends more than 3% of GDP on social investments. And that's it on business news. Thank you for watching. I am BC Adebayo.